Our tree farm name is the Free-Bolton Tree Farm, named after my mother's married name and my married name, but it goes way, way back to the 1870s. My great-grandfather came out here, saw that the trees were the weed of Grace Harbor, and his son-in-law, Frank Lamb, kept it up and passed it on to his children. And my mother was in charge of dividing it between the four of them. And I inherited my portion, which I've been passing on to my children. It's in 18 individual parcels that are spread here and there, because through the generations the family has bought various pieces of land. How many acres? Approximately 1,000, just a little under that now.
I met Jean when she was president of the Washington Farm Forestry Association, and we did a lot of work together. I was the attorney for the Farm Forestry Association at the time, so I would have been attending board meetings and acting sort of in the background as they put together testimony to the legislature.
Back in those days, it was more of a man's world, and she started to come to meetings as really was highly respected for leadership in farm forestry. So in 1991, she was elected president of the Farm Forestry Association, the first woman to serve as president. So she did that for 2 years. If you remember, that's when the TFW, the Timber, Fish, and Wildlife, was going on. And that was tough negotiations. That was a big change for the industry. And Jean was in the middle of that.
So when the opportunity to be appointed to be the small landowner representative to the Forest Practices Board came up, Jean was convinced to take that position. It was a wonderful thing to watch, a strong, determined, educated woman. And she was always quiet. She was always persuasive. She was always dignified, and it sometimes infuriated people who really wanted to make her angry enough to lose her poise.
I have been brought to this place, this family land, since I was, I'm sure, a toddler, if not even younger. And it's been, part of my life for my entire 60-plus year life now. So my daughters, who are aspiring veterinarians and wildlife biologists, really enjoy coming out and finding the smaller wildlife, like abundance of snakes and salamanders and the like. So we know it's a pretty healthy forest floor ecosystem that way. But living nearby, I know there are, for instance, cougars. Well, this particular parcel where we are, the one with the most road exposure, the biggest problem that we end up dealing with is clearing out dumped trash periodically. We were just this morning clearing out about a half a pickup load, and that's just since the last time, and it accumulates pretty quickly. Other than that, of course, Mike Jackson, our longtime manager, is much better qualified to speak to the specific forestry challenges we faced.
I've been working with the Bolton family since the late 1980s. So basically a little over 30 years. With Jean's mother in the very beginning, and then with Jean. The challenges of any forest is to determine the amount of ground that really grows trees versus the water and the habitat areas. Because a lot of times people have 80 or 100 acres, and yet 40 or 50% of it, you can grow trees on it, but you can't harvest them. So basically, in the beginning of the Bolton ownership was to do the forest inventory on the properties. The original species was western hemlock, Sitka spruce, western hemlock, and Sitka spruce. Very little Doug fir was on this property, but through time, some of these areas were clear-cut, and then they were replanted in the 1970s to Doug fir. And so today we have a species mix of Doug fir and hemlock and spruce.
My favorite part is this parcel here. I'm 89 years old and I can see all this from the car, so I don't have to come in here hike in to look at it. I love doing it about once a month. I drive by and watch and see things. The legacy plans, as they exist now, are to pass it on to my sons. I have been gifting them since the 1970s, so they now own over half of it.
With the next generation, I think it's pretty likely that we'll end up in an LLC so that the grandchildren can balance their interests a little more readily rather than splintering it into smaller and smaller pieces.
So I think it will go on for at least another generation, maybe two.